This week's scenario sees our Skorne and Retribution players advancing to the third and final Prologue mission, Border Wars. In this mission, each player will nominate a battle commander, which will be their leader for their army. If one player had won both games, they would have tough. In this situation, neither player will. If one player won the Rising Tension mission with 3 of their models getting off the table, our Skorne player, they will receive 3 tokens that allow them to re-roll 1 attack or damage roll. Victory conditions consist of either killing the opponent's battle commander, or having the only models available on the table.
Hey everybody, this is Gaston, and today we are playing Retribution in the Oblivion campaign. It looks like the filthy Skorne managed to outrun my poor Invictors, so we're just going to end up hunting him down here with some Mage Hunter Strike Force. My list consists of 2 units of Mage Hunter Strike Force and 1 max unit of Infiltrators. The idea is to go for a thematic list, so there's no tough checks here, and a balance of ranged and melee. So it's kind of a bit of a combined forces.
Alright, for my list today, I wanted to tank up. I wanted to do what Skorne does. I think Skorne does probably better than a lot of other factions. That's kind of tank up and move across the field. So for that, I have the Legends of Halaak, which I'm going to use as kind of like my hammer. To move forward, try to take out targets, use the rest of my force to protect Zaadesh and his battle group.
So fortunately for me, I won the roll to go first, and everything's just going to run up, making sure that I stay out of his threat range. When I was selecting this list, I wanted to focus on models who could increase their stats through things like CMA, CRA, or in the case of the Infiltrators gang. The idea being that there's not a lot of extra models to buff your own guys, so you're kind of stuck on whatever your base stats are. And having the ability to stack things, through those different abilities lets you counteract a lot of defensive tech in the case of if he had taken the guys with Blade Shield, for example. Anything that's at 5 is just SOL.
Alright, so I'm going to start off by moving the Cetrati forward. Now, if you notice, I only have 3 out there. I don't know where my brain was. For some odd reason, I was thinking that I only had 3 in a min unit, but I actually have 4, and soon you'll see me bring out the 4th one. It'll probably be after everything ends up moving. But anyways, so the Cetrati move forward. They shield wall next to the little wall, so that way it kind of helps build up a nice little fortification, and then the Cyclops moves up to also build, to help continue with that defense. And I kept the Scarab back just far enough to still be in sack pawn range. So, and then of course the Legends moved up behind the wall.
So compared to my blitzing all the way up the table, he's taking a very conservative, turtley approach with his shield wall and with taking the Legends and keeping them in their little special triangle formation. So unfortunately for him, I have superior range to him. I'm range 12, his guys are threat range 10. So I'm going to start putting that to my advantage with just, again, these big CRAs into a single model. And this is where it pays off to have this flexibility in your list, where originally when I built this, I thought he was going to take a bunch of single wound models, and this was going to be a single wound showdown. And here he shows up with this giant brick of armor, 20 guys. It's really crazy. But because I have the ability to stack all of my guys together, I'm able to just go in and put one big shot into a guy. I think I dropped him down to like 1 wound. And, next turn, I'll probably try to finish him off. And so I'm being able to leverage the distances. I'm able to leverage the flexibility of my army to my advantage. And then the other thing that I think really helps me here is that he has a low volume of attacks. So every guy I take off the table is a plus for me, whereas like all of my guys have 2 attacks, I outnumber him 2 to 1, so I have a large volume of attacks to counter back to him, and just every time he loses a model, I feel like it's going to be even more devastating to him because of that disparity.
Okay, so as you can see from the last turn, I managed to put the final Cetrati back in, and now it's a now I have to think, because originally my original plan was to just kind of bunker up, kind of hold back, and wait for him to come in a little closer. But he has CRAs. So that's not going to help me too much. So I'm going to have to advance forward and hopefully either push him back or try to get it to where he finally comes in and engages me. So, starting with the Cyclops, he ends up moving up. He puts up his own Animus. And then the Cetrati activate. They move up. They put up shield wall. Then the Scarab moves over. Once again, the Scarab, I only want the Scarab there for basically like a sack pawn on my Zaadesh if he needs it. It's just a matter of trying to figure out, where I can put them all so they don't get killed too quickly. And then because my plan is to kind of circle around to where his leader is, I went ahead and brought the legends down as well.
So if you're going to keep turtling, I'm going to keep taking shots at you. There's no real reason for me to come closer to get in your threat range, so I'm just moving my guys up, staying just outside of his threat, being a little careful. The Legends of Halaak have a slightly longer threat range, so we need to make sure they can't get in. I'm just going to keep taking CRAs. And so in this particular case, the CRA is wildly successful, and it takes the guy out. No harm, no foul. And really what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to force him to come to me. Because when he comes into me, I now have, one, the CMA on the Strike Force, but I also have all these gang guys, and he is going to lose a lot of his bonuses because he's running, he's not shield walling, so he's not going to be +4 armor. He's going to be something that's much easier for me to take a bite out of. So there again, the other unit is going to try to kill another guy. Unfortunately, in this case for me, I roll Snake Eyes to hit, so good job, CRA. Then if anyone's wondering where my leader is, that's who you have to keep alive. He is the leader of the bottom unit of Mage Hunter Strike Force. So there's a guy who's just kind of hanging out in the woods. That's that guy.
Well, that CRA did not go as I had hoped. So that means I'm going to have to change my tactic here, which is I'm going to have to run and engage, weather the return attacks, and then try to rebunker back up. So the distance I'm measuring with that little disc is for the Scarab, because I wanted to be able to run the Scarab forward, and have him run and get within 3 inches of where I was going to leave Zaadesh. That was the plan. And so instead, everything has to start in a sequence because I am kind of bunkered up. So the Cetrati activate first. They take the run order, and I'm hoping that with Arm 16, I should be able to survive a couple of the attacks because I've locked them in. So it's not like I'm really going to get charged. So the hope is I can do fairly decent with surviving. And then the Brute moves forward, and he runs forward to engage as well. The hope here is, once again, engage as much as I can. Get everything locked down, and now Zaadesh activates, and he ends up running as well because, I don't want him to be left out of range. But then I remembered, wait a minute, if I run him up, the Scarab will be out of my command range and won't be able to run. So I actually run the Scarab first. Gaston's kind enough to allow me to run him up, and then I end up running up Zaadesh to engage the guys down there, and trying to stay away as far away as I can from his little Gaston's ninja guys, because those guys on the charge are very dangerous, very painful. Don't like it. So next is the Legends. I really don't want to be have those guys shoot me in the back, so I'm going to use the Legends to tie them up, and they're taking the run charge order. And at speed 7, seeing how he's just over 10 inches away, some of the guys might actually be able to get in with a charge. So the first 2 charged, but the first 2 ran because their charge distance wouldn't have been enough to get them into melee. But then the final one ended up charging in, and he does have 2 inch, so he ended up swinging on the one guy.
So going into turn 4, he's done more or less exactly what I wanted him to do and what I had planned for him to do. So for me, it now becomes this, kind of order of activation question, and how good can I roll dice? In order to cover a big enough area, he had to split up the Legends of Halaak. They're no longer getting their bonuses against melee because they're not base to base with each other. So now I'm able to start CMAing them down with the Mage Hunter Strike Force. The Strike Force is not that great in combat, but once you start stacking together enough CMAs, I take care of one of the legends right there, and then I also now have all of these infiltrators who can come up and they can get the gang and get those benefits there. So what's kind of going on is I have a bit of a mess on my bottom flank though, because he got creative. He took a War Beast and he took one that's got a decent amount of boxes and a pretty high armor, and they are now all very scarily close to my 1 wound leader. And I really don't want them to get to my 1 wound leader. So the big thing for me at this moment is to make sure that I am able to take care of the rest of the Cataphract, or however you pronounce them. I had one Strike Force guy die to defensive strike over there. So that's what we're resolving. So I'm a little fearful that on the bottom I'm not going to be able to hold him up as much as possible, especially with that wall there. That's kind of preventing me from getting really good charges on him. But we're going to do my best with the Strike Force guys that I got. And that's where we're just checking to see who's engaged, so who's going to get the charge bonus, who's not going to get the charge bonus. And for the most part, they're just kind of going to meander on in. And like I said, they're going to try to jam up the works, they're going to do the CMA however possible, and see what we can do. Again, we both took a theme force where there are no tough checks. I can't remember if his guys are tough or not. I think they are, but it won't matter as long as I'm able to roll high enough. And then my poor unit leader is just hiding on the other side of those woods, and because he has to scoot far enough back, the one Mage Hunter Strike Force guy is not in command. So that reduces my 4-man CMA down to 3-man. And sadly for me, they do not succeed in really killing anything or hitting anything. They do whatever damage they do. So that just takes me now to my Infiltrators. And my goal there is I've got these nice 3 juicy targets. We're just going to try to roll them up real quick. The question is the order of activations in the sense of model by model, because you want to be able to get the charge, trigger the gang, and then do you decide to combo strike, do you not combo strike, and then how do you set up the guys who aren't going to charge in for next turn, where obviously the flow of the battle is shifting towards the bottom of the screen, so I want to have a couple guys left over who are facing the right direction, who are in command, because obviously that got me last time, and make sure that they're in a position to come in and help out the poor Mage Hunter Strike Force. So they go in, they're going to do their thing now. I think for the most part is the non-charge attacks with a combo strike, because at that point you are hitting, I believe off the top of my head, POW 14 against armor 16. So on average 7 2 dice should just be kills. Again, no tough checks thanks to the theme force. For wherever those are applicable, and for the most part, everything's kind of going according to plan. They take out the second of the legends. Once there's only one left, he's a lot less scary, and it was particularly important for me to kill the guy with the maracas because he's got more than one attack, and that's a big thing for me, especially in these lower point games, is having a volume of attacks. It's something if you're considering the House Eloir Swordsman. They have the Serpent Strike mini feat, so you get the attack there, and you have the Cleave. They're another unit that I was strongly considering for this scenario. So otherwise, we've taken out a huge chunk of the center of his army, and I think we're in a good spot.
Okay, that was a painful turn. His guys were able to do enough with gang. I should have known. Done enough with gang to wipe out 2 of the Cetrati up there at the top, so I'm left with 1 Cetrati. 1 of the legends is still on the table, and I'm completely tied in with my commander. So let's see what I can do for this turn. I guess my initial thing is I'm going to attempt to try to free up or take out some of his models. Hopefully I can, do some damage to free up some other models so I can get over to his leader, who is actually hiding behind that orange tree at the bottom of the screen there. And the Scarab ends up coming in with Tag Team still up, which I cast turn 1. With Tag Team still in place, I end up, he's in range from the Brute, so the Brute helped him with Tag Team, so he was able to hit the one guy, and then because of how low their armor is, he was able to kill them. And now the Legend ends up activating. He slides over, trying to lock down as much as he can. He swings. And I think he ended up just failing to kill. And now the Cetrati's activating. Unfortunately, they only get the 1 attack. It'd be nice if they got more than the 1, but they get, leastways it's a decent attack. And now the Brute's going to activate, and the Brute's going to use his shield against the archer guy in front of him. And then I'm pretty sure the Halberd's going to go against the guy in front of Zaadesh, because I can't reach the other guy. Yep, just confirming there, I'm just out. So Halberd's going to go against the other guy that's blocking in Zaadesh. I managed to kill him. And then now the only last activation I have is Zaadesh himself. And I end up, it's kind of hard to see, but I'm getting ready to run him. Well, I'm finishing up with the Brute first, who's put up his own Animus to make it to where, he's going to be somewhat protected. And then now I'm measuring my command range so I can run to Zaadesh up behind the forest and still keep him in command range of the Brute. So that's my plan for the rest of this turn, and I'm just kind of measuring to make sure where I'm going to be able to put Zaadesh once he ends up running, because I don't want his ninja guys to be able to come around that corner and hit me on a charge. I want them to have to walk in and actually do their part from walking.
So it kind of feels like with all these games, we're shifting down towards the bottom of the table, so we had to adjust the camera a little bit. The only thing that's going on at the top of the screen, you can kind of see it at the edge there, is the Strike Forces ganging up on the remaining Legend. He's actually, I think, going to successfully kill one with Defensive Strike because, after 5 minutes I forget about these things. And they are just going to horribly whiff and just not kill him. So, good job, Mage Hunter Strike Force. You're just going to stay up there the rest of the game. Otherwise, I have a really, really, really terrifying situation going on down here, where I have Zaadesh engaging my Mage Hunter leader. And we're going to have to be kind of clever about this. I got very lucky in that he left enough room for me to run models in between them. And I think that was a function of the distance on how far back he was. He just couldn't get closer. But I definitely don't want to take a free strike, because that would be bad. And especially he still has those rerolls from winning previous turns. So what I'm ultimately going to end up doing is I want to try to get rid of this little Scarab Beetle thing. Start working on his transfer targets. I want to wrap some of the Infiltrators around behind the Cyclops, so that way I can get them in the back arc. They'll ignore his shield the following turn. So that way I can, be more effective, do more damage. And then I also kind of want to gum him up a little bit, so that way I know where he's going to be. I don't want him wandering off into some crazy place. So even if I lose a couple guys, that's a sacrifice I'm willing to make in order to keep him in one spot and control his movement. And then I'm running 2 guys down to block line of sight to my leader so he can escape, and he's just going to run away like a horrible coward, which is perfectly acceptable, to me at least. And then the other thing I'm being very careful of is I'm positioning 2 more of the Infiltrators within 7 inches of Zaadesh. And this is very important because he's on the other side of the woods. I don't have line of sight, I can't charge, but now I can walk to him. So he's going to have to deal with the 2 guys in front of him, and then I have 2 more guys who can walk into him, and that's going to be a pretty big advantage to me. So the charge goes ahead, takes care of the little bug critter. I take care of the last of his medium base guys. So thumbs up to me. And now I just run away like such a punk. Everyone should be upset by that.
Okay, once again, another painful turn. Unfortunately, Gaston was able to screen his leader to have his leader move back and away out of range and get away. So now I'm taking the Brute, and I'm trying to get it to where the Brute is going to be able to engage as many as possible, but still be in my command range. Unfortunately, because I had advanced so far forward to lock in Gaston's leader, it kind of limits where I can put the Brute. So that one ninja guy on the far side is actually going to be out of my melee range. And now I'm just buying attacks for bought an attack for boosted an attack for that second guy with the halberd, and then I put up his own animus because I didn't want him knocked down or anything. And now I think Zaadesh is going to do his part, and he's going to try to get a smidge closer to the Brute, and then he is going to swing on one of those guys. Actually, I ended up missing the first one, so I bought and boosted a second swing, and that's mine to my turn 5.
So I got a real gift here when he only managed to kill one of the infiltrators. Just, it's better to be lucky than good. So what that's going to let me do is I can now walk in 2 more onto Zaadesh. Now I'm going to get 6 swings with Gang. In addition to that, I'm going to be able, remember I have to walk, I can't charge, so I won't get the bonus. But I'll be able to put some more guys into the back of his Cyclops. So my order of activation plan here is I'm going to pop Zaadesh, just because at this point I think he's got decent enough stats where it's fairly easy to hit him. I think he's like defense 13, so I need a 5. But then I'm going to do more damage to him, force him to transfer it over to the Cyclops to get a little extra bonus on there. And then after everyone's kind of gone on Zaadesh, I'm just going to go into the Cyclops with a combo strike and hopefully take him down even further and make life even harder and kind of soften up, which is probably the hardest model on the table to kill. So at the top, the Strike Force did manage to kill the final legend. They're out of the game now. No one really cares about them anymore. So the first one, he pops Zaadesh. He actually does 7 points of damage. Obviously gets transferred. Very happy about that. And they actually end up killing off Zaadesh. So good job, Infiltrators. You guys are awesome.
All right. The wrap-up. Let's see. It was a good game. I thought I brought a good list. I thought the list had some good strengths to it. I definitely thought that there was potential. I guess my thing I needed to realize was CRAs are a thing, and I know it was a kind of a hot dice for Gaston, but it's still painful, and I'm hoping for maybe the next round against him in this campaign, I will be able to exact revenge for this one. So far, he's won the first and third. I've won the second one. So let's hope we keep that up and keep on going back and forth. Once again, it was a great game, and I definitely enjoyed playing it. If you guys have any reservations about playing narrative games like this, campaign games, I would strongly suggest trying it. They're great games. They're not really your standard scenarios. So yeah, definitely give them a try.